Welcome back to Block TV. It's time now for stress tests, and in the crypto sphere, the two biggest drivers seem to still be fear and greed. With emotions running the show, there is a serious need for the industry to develop more accurate metrics, and fortunately, we have a person who can help us to understand things from a new perspective. I'm talking, of course, about the TIE co-founder, Joshua Frank, a regular on the show. And Josh, thanks so much for being with us again.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so kicking us off this week, we got to talk about what can be the latest of developing news. We've seen in the last hour or so a massive pump in Bitcoin's price that saw it jump from around the 7.2 mark all the way up to its peak at about, what was it, just under 7.8. A pretty massive spike to be seeing in such a short time frame. It already seems to be retracing. But Josh, is there anything we can see coming out of this, anything sentiment related that you think would drive what was a significant pump with some pretty significant volume?
Yeah, I mean, I think we saw volume pump up on we track like a list of exchanges that, we think tend to be more transparent and accurate in their reporting metrics. And, among those exchanges, the 5-minute volume pumped by about 50x. So it was a big spike in volume, but, I haven't looked into it too much yet as it just kind of happened. But, to me, this kind of looks like, maybe somebody placed a very large trade on an exchange or something of that nature, which would explain, the giant increase in trading volume and then the subsequent follow-up of no additional, volume has kind of dropped a bit and price is going back down as that demand no longer seems to be there. But I'm sure crypto Twitter will come to our aid pretty soon and start answering the questions. But it doesn't seem to be sentiment related. If we kind of zoom out here a bit, I guess about a month ago I came onto the show, and this was kind of before Bitcoin had that 41. Probably a couple days before Bitcoin had that its 41% spike. And what I said was that sentiment in the market is not good, and kind of any subsequent spikes or anything don't seem to be sentiment driven. And what we've seen is that, after Bitcoin spiked about 40% with the Xi announcement, it kind of went right back down. And sentiment has been pretty negative for months. We're not seeing a lot of new retail action. Trading tweet volumes have declined significantly. And what we're seeing now is the blue area chart is daily sentiment score versus the blue line is price. So under that 50 metric is negative, above it is positive. And we had seen pretty negative sentiment throughout the month. And then right now it's pretty flatlined, but on low trading, or on low tweet volume rather. So I think the market is very much in a wait and see mode.
Yeah, it does seem to be in a wait and see, trading in a channel, perhaps waiting for some of those external narratives to kick off. But as we spoke earlier, Maddie Greenspan, a market analyst, quite out there in the sphere and a friend of the show, made a significant statement about how some of this sentiment is playing out relative to old sentiment. What was that we can focus in on?
Yeah, so thanks, Maddie, for the shout out on Twitter. But yeah, Maddie had posted on November 26th. This is actually one day where we had seen positive sentiment. You can see that blue line there is daily sentiment score, and it popped to the highest level since the Xi announcement, which actually led a $600 intraday movement on the 26th, 27th-ish, which was great. But sentiment kind of retraced and price went back down, and we're kind of stuck in this channel again. But it was nice to see the fact that positive sentiment within the market still has a very significant impact on price, which we've seen kind of time in and time again. So thanks, Maddie, for the shout out there on Twitter.
I want to ask as well, Josh, just sort of looking at a macro picture, what do you think it would take to get sentiment back into a consistently positive channel? I mean, in your opinion, does the market seem to be waiting for something to change, waiting for external factors to kick in? I mean, it just seems very amorphous at the moment. It seems like it's lacking direction. Would you agree?
I mean, one of the things that we're seeing is that sentiment actually has been very, very indicative on the short side, not as much on the long side. And what I mean by that is it doesn't seem like positive news is driving this market right now. It seems like it's negative news. When something negative comes out, that tends to crush the market versus positive announcements. For example, like CoinMarketCap's prices getting listed on Yahoo Finance. Like in 2017, that would have pumped the market by 30%. I mean, granted, 2017 was completely irrational. My point just being that it seems like positive news isn't really doing anything. So it's it's very difficult to tell. I think we're in this really weird wait and see period where we don't fully have retail interest, we don't fully have institutional interest. For those large pension funds and for the institutions to come in and to allocate to crypto, they need kind of regulatory certainty, which we especially don't have in the United States right now, as well as liquidity, which is a big issue. So, if you look at some of these larger, pension funds, take like an OMERS or an Ontario Teachers, for example, let's say, the minimum allocation size that they have to make to an asset class is $2 billion. If somebody like that put $2 billion in crypto, the price would, triple or quadruple. I mean, the effects would be massive, and, they'd be shooting themselves in the foot. So we're in this weird place now where these large institutions can't allocate to crypto yet because of, lack of liquidity and lack of regulatory certainty. And then from a retail point of view, it just seems like no news is really driving new interest. I mean, even that 41% daily spike, which, you'd think would drive a lot of, kind of eager retail traders in the market, hasn't really done so. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think we're in a really weird spot right now. I'm not sure what it's going to be that drives the market, but it doesn't seem like there's anything, on the immediate horizon that, is driving in, strong retail interest.
Right, and to be clear, not to sort of compound too much on the negative elements of the market right now, but we've got to be realists here. This negative sentiment extends not just to Bitcoin, but across pretty much all the top 10 coins, isn't that right?
Yeah. So, I mean, the most positive cryptocurrency by sentiment right now is Tether, which is, interesting because that doesn't happen very often. But this is long-term sentiments. This is looking at sentiment over the last 50 days versus the previous 200. And you can see we're pretty neutral and very negative on some coins like XRP and Litecoin right now, which have been really, really struggling. So yeah, it's broadly across the board. I mean, we're seeing, a couple of coins, a couple altcoins that are doing well, but it's pretty broad across the board. And I mean, if you look at, kind of stepping aside for a second, there was a piece in Bloomberg this morning about funds and fund performance in crypto. And I think something like 80 or 90 crypto funds have closed shop this year, which kind of puts into perspective, kind of the struggles that we've had within the industry. And most of those funds tend to be, more fundamental funds that have allocated to, long positions in some of these altcoins, which have, crashed by 95 to 99% from all-time highs.
All right. I mean, it sounds like you're painting a dark picture out there for the market at the moment.
But quant funds are doing really well. So
Okay.
there are a lot of quantitative hedge funds that are killing it in the space. We've spoken to a bunch of them. So guys that are doing arbitrage and market making and building some interesting quantitative strategies, including those that are trading off of sentiment, are doing very well. So there are people in the market that are doing very, very well today, but they tend to be more on the quantitative side. Vision Hill puts out a report where they track the performance of different strategies. They basically build indices for quantitative hedge funds, fundamental funds, and other types of funds in the space. And we're seeing that quantitative hedge funds are broadly, the best performers in the space right now.
All right, so there is some hope out there in the market as well with certain coins. Let's get out of the doldrums, let's get out of the woods and take a look at a couple of coins that are breaking trend and actually doing all right from a sentiment perspective across the market.
Yeah, so one which has been basically positive throughout the entire year with a small drop off is Tezos. And Binance just announced free Tezos staking yesterday, which I think is, kind of a further positive for the coin. But, while Tezos versus the US dollar has not performed great since the summer, it is up just this month about 84% versus Bitcoin. And sentiment on Tezos has been in the, mid 60s to 70s range, from around July or August. So definitely kind of in positive territory. And we're seeing that sentiment is leading, upwards price movement on Tezos. The market, has been very positive. And another coin which we've seen more recently is Synthetics Network Token. And this is looking at daily, so not long-term sentiment score. And daily sentiment score looks at conversations today versus the previous 20. And what we've seen is basically throughout, the last 30 days, sentiment on Synthetics Network Token, SNX, has been very positive, and the coin's up about 140% versus Bitcoin. So we're definitely seeing that there are, although there's not this broad alt season that I think a lot of people were expecting, there are still some coins, and we've seen it earlier in the year with Chainlink, that do have the opportunity to perform. There are people that are allocating to crypto, and while we don't see a tremendous amount of new capital allocating to crypto, people are moving their money within the ecosystem. So while I don't see in the immediate future necessarily a massive rise in the total crypto market cap, I think you do have opportunities to see some of these smaller altcoins outperform, and we've been seeing that.
All right, it is nice to see that the whole market isn't all being dragged down at once, and maybe with so many thousands of coins out there, there might be one or two that are managing to break that trend and be good market
Maybe it'll
performers.
be BLTV token.
Perhaps so, perhaps so. All right, Joshua Frank from The Tie, I want to thank you so much for taking us through the sentiment in this choppy market at the moment. Seems to be in a bit of a holding pattern at the moment. Hopefully that breaks soon and we'll have some positive sentiment to share in the future. But in the meantime...
More green candles.
Exactly. More green candles all around. Please, market, we're talking to you. But in the meantime, stay with us at blocktv.com for all the latest in news and information. I'm Asher Westrop Evans. Thanks for watching.
For more news and updates, follow us on Twitter.